Simek here. I'm not at school today. We are still lecturing on forestry. You do have a quiz tomorrow on this, so this is not really an optional lecture. This is a have to. So you should have your chapter 10 reading guide in front of you. If you don't have one, it's up front by the pencil sharpener. So let's start with number 1. What? No, I don't want to configure my pen. Dismiss. All right, so let's talk about forests in general. So we've got some types. So our old growth forests technically have to be more than 200 years old to be considered old growth. Those are the ones that we've talked about before with carbon sinks or carbon reservoirs. So it means they were never cut or they've been cut and have been restored. So this is between 30 and 40% of our world's forests fall into this category. They're phenomenal reservoirs of carbon and they're reservoirs of biodiversity. The second growth forests then, if you remember back to last unit, are undergoing secondary succession. That's where the soil was left. Those R-selected species move in, and then the K-selected species take over in the climax community. So it can be after trees have been removed, maybe for agriculture by clear cutting, which we'll learn about in a minute. It could be after a fire, it could be after a flood. So again, the soil is still left and they are regenerating. And then we have our plantations, our tree farm, which are basically like crops, right? They're planted in rows. We have uniform dispersion that are going to supply a lot of our industrial wood. So it's low species diversity, maybe 1 or 2 species. The trees are the same age. They're thinned out, so they're managed pretty intensively, I would say. And those are our tree plantations. So if we're looking at kind of the life cycle of all this, you've got this, let's see here. Here's my pen. I just have to remind myself how to use this. So right here we have cut. Here's where we clear cut. And then we're going to kind of move this way. Okay? So you have your seedlings planted. And it shows you after 5, 10, 15. We might do some thinning out here after 15. Like this guy's no good. And then we have our mature forest, and then we would cut again. So this is kind of the life cycle. In tropical climates, this 30-year life cycle is probably 6 to 10 years because of the moisture and because of the temperature. It can go a lot faster. So what do forests do for us? This would be a great FRQ question. Ecologically, I've already mentioned this, but they're a reservoir for carbon. So I would definitely put that one down. Encourage biodiversity because of habitats. Think about nitrogen, think about phosphorus. We talked about reducing soil erosion because their roots hold everything in, so that would be a few for that. In terms of economic, I think you could figure it out. We have lots of paper mills in Wisconsin, lumber, you could burn it for fuel, recreation, jobs. Good. Okay, so moving on. You guys are going to do some labeling and some defining. The definition should kind of come after the pictures. That first picture that you're looking at that has kind of the strip running through it is going to be what we call selective cutting. So you're kind of going to define it next to it, okay? Selective cutting, when you harvest trees, you're taking trees out singly or in small groups. It's very environmentally friendly. It's pretty costly. Okay? We're going to reduce erosion. It's going to be fantastic. Way on the other side is where we're going to have clear cutting, which is exactly what it sounds like. You're taking out every single tree in an area. Super efficient. You don't need any sort of expertise for which trees to grab. It's cheap. You get a lot of profit. The problem is now you clear the land and we have erosion problems, and we've lost a bunch of biodiversity. And so kind of in the middle, you have strip cutting. You're clearing them sort of along this single contour of land. It's kind of a compromise between clear cutting and selective cutting. So we're kind of looking at like a seesaw of how this goes. Okay. You've got selective, that's the best. You've got clear cutting, that's the worst in terms of environmental effects. And then kind of this middle is strip. Okay. So we're looking at pictures now. Remember, you can always pause this if I'm going too fast. But if you're looking at pictures, look at this selective cutting right here on the top. So you see these little individual trunks on the top left. You see the clear stream. So the erosion is, we've left a bunch of trees to absorb any sort of pollution. And again, that soil holds. Look at that clear cutting. You have this muddy stream, very high turbidity in terms of pollution. And so on the bottom, which is your third picture, is our strip cutting. They cut a strip, they have a little road to get at it, and they kind of move on. Right below that road is trees that were cut 3 to 10 years ago. You have the uncut on either one of the sides, and you kind of rotate through. So you see it still reduces pollution. We still control soil erosion, but we get more trees per area land, so higher crop yield. So in terms of what it looks like, this is a clear-cut forest with a tree plantation in the background. So recently cut, completely destroyed. So trade-offs then, this is also number 3. I hope you left room. You can grab a Post-it if you didn't. With clear-cutting forests, you get a lot of lumber. It's cheap. You can always reforest or replant with things that grow fast. You can see very clearly that we reduce biodiversity and habitat loss. And then what I think is really important is that right here, this erosion. We're causing a lot of erosion and high turbidity with any sort of water source that's below it. Okay, so that should have taken you should have a lot written for number 3, people. A lot. So now we move kind of into forest fires. So when you're talking about secondary succession, one thing that can leave soil behind is forest fires. And we have kind of 2 big ones. We're not going to watch the videos. You can watch them on your own if you'd like with the shared lecture. But we're kind of going to compare surface fire and crown fire. Okay, so surface fires, first of all, fires in general aren't bad necessarily. They can help replenish the ecosystem. They can open up some seeds. They have some benefits. So surface fires are usually just going to burn the leaf litter. Remember, that's that O horizon. And then like the little saplings in the undergrowth. A lot of times it just clears it out. So this picture on the bottom left, that's a surface fire. People, surface fires are good in general. Here's some reasons why. You got to fit this under number 4. Here's some reasons why. Number 1, they burn away flammable ground material like dry brush, like fallen trees, and they help prevent more destructive fires. So it's kind of the idea that if we have a couple little fires along the way, we can kind of avoid a giant disastrous fire later on. Number 2, there are certain types of plants that their seeds, they're called ceratinous. Their seeds and the cones are only reduced from fire. So they kind of have this like hard resin, like plastic almost, that holds it together. And when the fire happens, they melt and they pop open and the seeds come out. That's what one of the videos is. It's like opening up. So a jack pine, which is in northern Wisconsin, that's one of them that does that. So it stimulates germination. It frees up minerals that are kind of stored. So we're going to release some of the carbon again. And then the last one is it can help control some destructive insects and some tree diseases. So people, surface fires, good. The ones that Smokey the Bear is talking about are crown fires. They're super hot, they burn the whole tree, they kill everything, and we're left with a lot of erosion because there's no roots holding anything down. These are the ones that secondary succession would happen after. Surface fires aren't going to wipe out an ecosystem. A crown fire is what killed Bambi's mom? Mom or dad? Mom. So that's answer number 4. So when you're looking at what impacts a forest ecosystem, we know fire can, but climate change also can. So we talked about desertification. Think about just drought in general. So as our climate shifts, we're going to see some rising temperatures, we're going to see some increased droughts. That's going to make trees less immune to things, so more susceptible to pests, more susceptible to disease. That's also going to increase the risk of fire. And as trees die, we're kind of losing our carbon reservoir again, so more greenhouse gases. So that should help you answer number 5. So you've got fire that kind of threatens forests. You've got climate change that threatens forests. You have pests that threaten forests. How about humans? Humans are the biggest threat to forests that we know of. Okay, so let's talk about deforestation for number 6. Why isn't it going on? There we go. So deforestation. Very specific example. We have temporary or permanent removal of big chunks of forest for agriculture to build on for other uses. In less developed countries, the big target is tropical forests. Latin America, Indonesia, Africa. If you remember boreal forest, coniferous forest, spruce moose biome, taiga, all the same thing. We're looking at primarily Russia and Canada. So 6 asks what parts of the world are experiencing the greatest forest issues. I think that's where you're going to say the tropical and the boreal. The good news is we've had some recent increases. This is a heightened awareness issue. Reforestation is much more popular and much more accepted, and tree plantations. Now, this isn't super high biodiversity, but it's still more plants in the ground. Okay, you can cross out number 7. Cross out number 7. I'm going to answer number 8. I have down, do it on your own, but I'm just going to tell you. Number 8, causes of tropical deforestation. Number 1 is logging. 1 is logging. 2 is slash and burn. That's where they cut it down and they burn it, which is terrible in terms of release of carbon. Slash and burn for subsistence agriculture and cattle ranching. 3 is clearing out areas for large soybean and palm oil plantations. And then the last one is clearing for fuel wood. Like we're actually going to burn it for heat. All of these things, people, all of these things in underdeveloped countries are because of population growth. So number 8, you can connect all of that to population growth. So how can we manage them more sustainably? Look at number 9. How can we manage them more sustainably? A lot of it's just education. Not only are they environmentally helpful to us, they're economically valuable to us. And we need to emphasize that to the general public. Removing subsidies or shifting them from just classic clear-cutting businesses to those that practice sustainable forestry, selective cutting, and strip cutting. Putting labels on, protecting those old-growth forests. Being very careful about planting versus harvesting and looking at balance there, and then just replanting in general. I think it says 4 ways. Yeah, there are 4 ways there. Good. Cross out number 10. You can cross out number 10. Then let's talk about forest fires again and improving management of forest fires. What are 4 ways to reduce harm caused by forest fires? Just gonna throw them all up there. If we burn on our terms, that's what a prescribed fire is, where we set the fire, a small contained surface fire to remove little trees and underbrush. That's like you're making your own surface fire so that you don't get to a crown fire. If you allow fires on public land just to kind of go, as long as they don't threaten or harm human life or wildlife, again, it's going to avoid more destructive crown fires. Protecting structures where you have fire, like kind of just being smart about where you build and what you use, and then finally thinning out those forests. Okay. Number 12 asks you to define prescribed fire. That's also on this slide. And then finally, ways of protecting tropical rainforests and using them more sustainably. Oh, geez, I gotta go back now. Sorry. I only have 15 minutes on YouTube, so I'm just gonna leave this slide up and kind of let it run. But just write a few things down. Protecting tropical rainforests. Look for where there's the most diversity, where we have those endangered species. Think about endemic species. Educate individuals. Subsidize sustainable forest use. Those are all the prevention, right? It's a lot easier to prevent than it is to restore. So just write a few down. So that kind of takes us through the forestry part of the lecture, leaves us with the rangeland part of the lecture. So I'm going to stop here. We're going to have part 2 of the video. If you would like to take a break now, tell the sub it's okay for you to take a break, and then we will continue.